This is the last page of chapter 4. Jackie did not like playing in the Negro Leagues. The sloppy schedules and the frantic pace annoyed him. Most of the players were Southerners, and Jackie just didn't fit in. A number of times he came close to quitting. At the end of his first year, he wrote an article for a national magazine. The article was called, "What's Wrong with Negro Baseball?" He said he considered it a miserable way to make a buck. Jackie still managed to have a good year. He hit .345 and was named the starting shortstop for the West in the All-Star game. But the end of the season found him unsure of his future. He liked playing baseball and felt he could get better. But he didn't like traveling, and he didn't like being away from Rachel. Traveling in the segregated South was keeping him in a constant state of anger. He wasn't sure what he would do. Chapter 5. Branch Rickey. Branch Rickey was born in Ohio in 1881, 38 years before Jackie Robinson. He played semi-pro football and baseball while he was in college so he could pay for his education. He was very religious and would never play on Sundays. Even though he studied to be a lawyer, he always seemed to be more involved in sports. When Rickey was 24, he played baseball for the St. Louis Browns, but he had health problems and had to stop playing. He continued working with the Browns as a coach and a scout. In 1913, when the Browns were in last place, he took over as manager. The next year, they finished 5th. 4 years later, Rickey took over as manager of the other St. Louis team, the Cardinals. This time, he took the last place Cardinals to 3rd place. Branch Rickey invented the farm system, a network of minor league teams that would assure the Cardinals of getting young baseball players as they developed. In 1926, when Jackie was 7 years old, Rickey's Cardinals won the World Series for the first time since 1888. He was with them for the next 17 years. During that time, they became one of the most feared teams in baseball history. His most famous Cardinal team was known as the Gas House Gang. They were feisty and fearless and would do anything to win. They got into almost as many fights with each other as they did with their opponents. By 1942, however, Rickey was having serious conflicts with the owner of the team. That year, the Cardinals won the most games they had ever won. Some people said their farm teams were as good as most major league clubs. They won another World Series that year, but Rickey and the owner just didn't get along. Rickey had to go. He had been with the Cardinals for 25 years and was baseball's highest paid executive. 61-year-old Branch Rickey now became a general manager for the Brooklyn Dodgers. The Dodgers were named that because it was said that to survive in Brooklyn, you had to be able to dodge the electrified streetcars that were everywhere. He didn't waste any time building the Dodgers into a powerful team. The first order of business was finding talent. Talent for the present and the future. Mr. Rickey, as he was now called, developed an elaborate scouting system. He hired men who knew their business and whose opinions he trusted. His scouts were scattered across America. He sent 20,000 letters to high school coaches asking them to recommend talented young players. He doubled the amount of scouts he first employed and then doubled them again. He signed over 400 players to contracts. Most of them were young and inexperienced, but they all had potential. Rickey traveled around the country looking for new young talent. He was one of the master traders in baseball history. After a trade, the other general manager often wondered how Rickey had gotten away with it. Rickey kept an elaborate index card filing system. It contained the names of all the high school and college players he wanted to keep tabs on. He hired a statistician to chart pitches. The Dodger farm system became second to none. Branch Rickey made it clear to anyone who cared to listen that he would do whatever it took to put together a winning team. And if that meant signing up a black player, then that is what he would do. A black player or two will not only help the Brooklyn organization, but putting colored players in the major leagues will also accomplish something that is long overdue. It is something I have thought about and believed in for a long time. Rickey had been thinking about it for a long time, at least as far back as when he was a baseball coach at Ohio Wesleyan University, before he joined the Cardinals. One spring, the team traveled to South Bend, Indiana for a game. When they went to check on their hotel, the desk clerk told Rickey that Charles Thomas, a black player, could not stay there. The hotel was for whites only. Charles Thomas was not only one of the best players on the team, but a fine young man. Rickey was outraged. He argued with the clerk, but it did no good. Thomas volunteered to return home because he didn't want to cause the team any problems. Rickey told him no. He insisted on seeing the manager of the hotel. He told him he wanted Thomas to stay in his room. Would they be willing to bring up a cot so he could do that? The manager agreed, and finally they went up to their room. Charles Thomas sat on the bed and cried, rubbing his hands and saying to his coach, "Black skin, black skin. If only I could make them white." Branch Rickey never forgot Charles Thomas. He promised himself that he would do whatever he could to see to it that something like this didn't happen again. I can't do something about racial bigotry in every field, but I can certainly do something about it in baseball. Branch Rickey was wrong. He could do something about racial bigotry in every field, just by doing something about it in baseball. Destiny was about to introduce Branch Rickey and Jackie Robinson, and baseball would never be the same. Neither would life in America.